Okay, so I guess we're going to get started now with the first question I have that's submitted. I actually did let the candidates know about this question beforehand because I discussed it on the phone with Mr. Foster when I was inviting him to the forum. And because I talked about it with him, I let the other candidates know that I was probably going to be asking it. About 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from a Troup County resident who lives in the Jackson Road area just north of West Point. This citizen told me that in the past week, her home insurance had gone from $690 to $1,600 because a fire station had been moved out of her area to take care of Kia. What do you think about this, and what can be done to help out homeowners in that area, Ms. Gilmore?
Well, the problem that this person has has to do with the ISO rating, which is determined by a number of factors. One of them being the distance, the time that it takes, or the distance within 5 miles of a station. And that is an area that is something that was discussed at a work session some time back. They had a map up there, and they were drawing circles on the map when they would begin to move some of the close some fire stations and open others. And they were talking about this as if everything was just fine in Troup County with all that was going on with the fire department. I have since learned that if you have a helicopter, you can get from this fire station to someone's house in the time limit in the 5 minutes that's required. But since we don't have helicopters in the county to get the fire station and fire equipment to the person's house, that presents a real problem. If this person if she lived in the city of West Point, immediately she would get a 2 rating because, see, the ISO ratings, there are about 8 criteria for those ratings to go for. The scale is from 1 to 10. And if she could somehow be annexed into the city of West Point, immediately she would have a 2 rating. Of course, she would have to be contiguous, of course, with the city of West Point. But this is a problem for counties. It is very difficult for a county without a countywide water system to have anything, I mean, a 2 is unreasonable. And cities can generally have a 3 rating. 4 would be good. 5 is an excellent rating for a county. And the problem that Troup County is going to face in that regard is that when the inspection time comes up, and it's due to come up in October, I'm not so sure the county would be ready for that under the current circumstances of where the fire stations are located. But right now, the ISO rating, I think, is 5, and that's pretty good for a county with no water system. But the problem is the location of the fire stations. And I had, since you gave a heads up on this question, I had the criteria you might be interested in. Fire departments, in order to get a class 3, and remember that this would be only for cities. Very rare would a county ever have anything like a 3. Fire departments must have pumper capacity to suppress a fire in any building in the community. Fire department must have a 24-hour central dispatch for contacting all firefighters on duty via pagers. They must have fully equipped reserve apparatus. Annual tests must be conducted on pumper trucks, hoses, and hydrants. And this is a problem with what the county has and what the cities have. Annual tests must be conducted. A minimum number of firefighters must be active in the department and respond to the alarms. And I think there's a problem right now with how many volunteers there are in the whole fire system. The department and community must have a definitive, reliable, and pressurized water supply. And you see, that's a real problem in the county. And then, of course, must perform annual fire code building inspections. You might be interested in knowing that there's one city in the state of Georgia that has an excellent #1 rating, and they pay about $1 million to have it, and that's Macon, Georgia. And so it is an issue that I think will need to be addressed in the coming months by the current commission board, and some restructuring, I think, and some inquisitive questions asked about fire protection. I think most people who live in the county know that if you live in the county and you don't have water supply, you can just stand back. You can stand back and watch your house burn, I think. But most people realize that, you live in the country and you know that you're at a somewhat disadvantage when it comes to fire protection. But anyway, it's a very important thing. But remember that the county ISO and the city ISO is very different. And under the circumstances of Troup County, it would be very difficult to have even a 3, but 5 is certainly acceptable. So.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, would you like to comment on that?
I would like to comment. Anytime I hear that someone's insurance premium more than doubles, I'm concerned because I immediately relate to that. Is the best planning and financial planning that you might do in your household. You're not ready for that kind of change. What's puzzling is just the information that I have on it doesn't really make it clear why that big of a change was experienced. I cannot imagine that the county commission did anything knowingly to put citizens in that predicament. However, with the circumstances as they are, a commissioner, and if I'm elected, I will certainly work hard to look at the root cause of that situation. ISO ratings, we understand what they mean and the criteria that it's based on. And unless some of the other criteria changed, I can't imagine that the premium would have been that drastically affected. At any rate, you have to look at the circumstances, look at the information that you have, and then make an informed decision about how to move forward as a county. The option of annexation is certainly an option to that homeowner. If she's not contiguous, then there are some options for getting everyone else between the city line and her property to sign on to become within the city of West Point. People who live in the county oftentimes choose to live there because they don't want to be inside the city limits. I don't think one size fits all in any situation. I always focus on the individual, and I think individuals should have choice in matters of this nature. And county commissioners should certainly consider that in their consideration of the issue.
Thank you. Ms. Gilmore, if you're elected, which specific policies would you work to change?
Well, I've started out from the very beginning. The reason that I wanted to serve the people in District 3 as their commissioner is to give them a voice as the taxpayers, the ones who are paying the bills for the county government. And the reason that I wanted to give them such representation is to make sure that they would have detailed accounting of how their tax dollars are being spent, and that when the money is, make sure about what it is spent on. That is the essential services of government. I have said numerous times that I do not agree with the commissioners, with the county government, giving tax dollars that are very hard earned and that are taken from people by force of law to the charity of their choice. Had a problem with that. And when I have asked for detailed accounting of some of the tax dollars, there has not been the detailed accounting forthcoming. I think that they are working on that right now, and they have even allowed Mike Dobbs to be the special project chairman, and who is now overseeing what they call the SPLOTS funds. And I have met with him, and And so I think they're, because of my questioning that, I think they're trying to give now some detailed accounting about those funds. It has been my desire that government spend for essential services. And that includes things like the fire departments and the sheriff's department and the court system, the things that individuals can't provide for themselves. That's the function of government. And going back to the ISO rating, the commissioners have the responsibility, the county manager has the responsibility of arranging these fire stations for fire protection in the county. And it is incumbent upon citizens also in dealing with their own insurance companies. We don't know the details about this individual who had such an increase in her homeowners. I don't know who her insurance company is, but certainly it's incumbent upon individuals to be responsible for their own lives. Government does what government does. And one of the other issues is that I'm for personal responsibility, people taking responsibility for their own lives and their own decisions. And sometimes we make decisions and maybe they're not so good, but we could make better decisions. And so in that regard, it's to oversee. By and large, that's what commissioners do. They tax and they spend your money. And I wanted to give some accountability for that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Williams, if you're elected, which specific policies would you work to change?
Well, I am partial to children and seniors to some degree. I care about all of the citizens of the county. But I think we must, as a community and as a county, focus on seniors and children. I've heard a lot as I've gone door to door about seniors paying property taxes, and that some counties don't require that, and the whole dilemma of being on a fixed income and filling the squeeze as property values increase and property taxes increase accordingly. I'm all for taking a look at that. I think we owe it to the county, to the citizens of this county, to do that, but not at the expense of children. Now, the county commissioners obviously don't set the millage rate for education. I think there's a little bit of confusion on that on the part of some of our citizens. However, the county commission, in concert with the Board of Education, certainly needs to have that as a major focus to take care of our children. An uneducated population has a negative impact on all of us. We cannot go into our communities and into our homes and lock our doors and set the alarm and assume that we're sheltered, we're protected. And so I think we have to look at what comes with an uneducated population. Seniors, property taxes, if there's any way we can give a break there, I'm all for it. Those are two issues that are near and dear to my heart.
Thank you. Ms. Gilmore, how do you feel about secretive groups that send false attack mail to the voters, and how can we stop it?
I think I've expressed myself pretty well on that subject. I've written letters to the editor about that. I have known from the beginning, a long time ago, when I opposed the special purpose local option sales tax last fall, I have known that when you are against what would amount to $129 million in taxes, that, I always say, follow the money when you get a target on your back. And I've had one expecting the smear in some form. It just so happened that it came first to one of the other candidates for commission in District 2. And of course, due to the good work of investigator like yourself, those who were behind that were exposed right quickly. And as a result of that, we were able to respond in a way that let the people of Troup County know that for some reason, this group of elected leaders, whom I am not running against, by the way, my opponent is not here tonight, but I was not running against Ricky Wolf or Jeff Lucan or the Chief of Police, Detmar, and any of the others, Drew Ferguson in West Point. I wasn't running against any of these people. And yet, for some reason, out of 5 candidates, or we could say 6, Ms. Williams as one, 6 candidates, I was the only one singled out in Commission Race District 3 for the smear. And of course, they saved that to last, and it was expected. And I can say right now that I might expect something before Tuesday. But they may be plotting right now as I speak. But I think it does not reflect well on the leadership in Troup County, because I have run an honorable campaign, and I have run it on issues. And I've made it real clear what I'm about, that I was concerned about giving the taxpayers a voice. I've made it an issue that I am for lowering taxes and for accountability in spending. And I have kept my message on those things. And I have found when I oppose a policy or a law or issue, whatever it is, keeping it on that level, that if you begin to win an argument like that, I like to say liberals start calling you names, and it shuts down all the debate. And I have kept my campaign on the issues, and I will continue to do that. And I hope that in my advertising as well, that I have used facts that speak for themselves, and I hope that I have never used anything that I cannot back up and stand behind, and it is issue-based. It is not a personal attack. But
Thank you. Ms. Williams, do you have any comments on that subject?
My mantra is to take the high road, to run a clean race in whatever, political elections or life in general. I think you can't argue with the point that you win in the long run if you play fair and if you are an honorable person and an honest person. And I certainly pledge to do that throughout this race.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Gilmore, I have one more question for you before we move on to some questions for Ms. Woodruff. Like I said at the beginning, the focus on this forum will be on the candidates and the runoff elections, and that's why I'm asking you this one final question. In terms of policy and how you perform as a county commissioner, what are the main differences between you and your runoff opponent, Tripp Foster?
oh, that's an excellent question. I've said from the beginning, when I have called on people, that there were 2 distinct differences between the 6 candidates, actually. And that those 2 differences remain. There are some others now, but the 2 were that I have availed myself of attending well over 400 government meetings. And when I say government meetings, I mean the work sessions and the commission meetings, and every time I had an opportunity to learn something. I know virtually every department head at the government center. I know the people who check your bags when you go in. I don't know people there. I know the citizens who show up at the work sessions. And in over 6 years, I had never heard the name Tripp Foster in my life. And I certainly did not know him as a person, have never met him. I have never seen him but one time. at a commission meeting, and that's when they give the service awards. And I think it was the day that his father died, and and there was great sympathy for him, and he was there to receive a service award. He did not stay for the commission meeting that day, as a matter of fact. Most people leave after they get those awards. But I found it very curious that someone wants to be a county commissioner who has never been to a meeting there. How do they know what really goes on? And in that regard, I mean, please give me an opportunity to go down this list. In the recent ad that Mr. Foster has, does attending 400 political meetings make someone an effective leader? Number one, I've never said it makes me an effective leader. Number two, these are not political meetings. I've attended government meetings, work sessions, budget meetings, meetings on impact fees, meetings on TADs, meetings of every kind, the comprehensive plan. All these are government, local, county government functions of which I have availed myself to. So they're not, number one, political meetings, and I've never said leadership. I've said that I'm prepared to serve because I understand the issues that have come before the commissioners. I have a working knowledge of how they have made decisions, and I've sat back many times thinking, how would I decide on this? Because some of them, as I said, are not so easy. And get this one. And you talk again about smears. I have not been at all, I so respect a firefighter, someone who puts themselves in danger, someone who puts their life on the line to save people's property or their life. I have such respect for someone who does that. And yet, listen to this. Does complaining and disrupting commission meetings while never having passed any legislation for the people of District 3. Now that to me is almost comical. There has never been a disruption of any meeting whatsoever. I have the utmost respect for the rule of order, and every meeting is conducted with the Roberts rules. In fact, Commissioner Chairman said that he has only two responsibilities. One is to conduct meetings by Robert's Rules of Order, and the other one is to set the agenda. I have never one time ever opened my mouth and spoken out and disrupted any commission meeting. And I would, if he were here, I would challenge him to produce anybody that could ever say that I have done that. Now, I could go on with this. It's this one. Can you cut a budget and continue to spend money? Now, somebody help me figure that one out. He says no. Well, of course the answer is yes. The reason you have a budget, that's a format for how you are going to spend money. Does the state political party have anything to do with and how we ration local tax dollars? A political party is a political party. That has nothing to do with rationing tax dollars. And then the last one is almost, it's very sad to me because my opponent has made a special point of saying that he has the endorsement of his other opponents. Well, he has the endorsement of two. He does not have the endorsement of Tim Duffy. Tim Duffy is supporting me. And Tim Duffy was also the fire chief, and I think he knows Troup Foster, but he's supporting me. And then he makes light of being endorsed by the Georgia Right to Life. And of the endorsements, that's the one that's real special to me. Because without life, I have liberty, and then there's no need for any pursuit of happiness. And I've really taken a stand for the born and the unborn. And I was responsible in part for having the personhood question on the ballot, on the Republican ballot. And as far as parties, I've been active in the Republican Party. But the party doesn't spend tax dollars. And but it has there provided me with the opportunity to learn some leadership skills. And I have had the utmost respect for the offices. And even though I may disrespect people who try to smear me in this campaign, I certainly respect the office of the chairman of the Board of Commissioners and of every commission seat there, because they have a great responsibility for the government of Troup County.
Thank you.